folks. I just thought I'd do a quick one, hopefully a quick one. Don't want to ramble on, but you know me. I'm still struggling with so many people I know, old friends as well, who seem so resistant to any kind of new information. They're kind of stuck. Maybe they stopped reading 20 years ago or 10 years ago or whenever, or they stopped exploring. You kind of arrive at a place in your life where you think you know everything you need to know. And some people, you know, that's kindergarten, and some people that's high school, university, graduate school, sometime after that. Of course, many of us have to retrain for new jobs and careers that we engage in, which requires us to learn something new. There are always practical things we can learn and things we can learn for our hobbies and so on. But I mean a general resistance to any kind of intellectual feedback or information that goes against the grain of their preconceived notions, their priors or whatever. Whether those priors or their prior understanding of the world is motivated by and informed by good information, quality information and study, or self-reflection, self-interrogation, or whether it's just from consuming media product, which I now consider most of it is purely just propaganda. So I was in the advertising industry, and I know a little bit about, you know, the madman approach and public relations and so on. One of my good friends had a fairly successful PR firm back in the day. We all are confronted with political spin, and if it's spun in your biased direction, then it's good spin. If it's spun away from you, your biases, then it's bad, right? We're all to some degree a little bit like that, and we can't help it, basically. You have to really be a very diligent observer of your own mind, reflections, curiosities, thought processes, and so on, to police yourself and say, maybe I need a new perspective on a thing. So some of my friends, especially in social media, they just troll me. So if I put something up that says something about a war not being such a great idea or good investment, you know, I'll get pushback. And usually the pushback comes from MSNBC or CNN or Fox News, or name your outlet. Whatever newspaper you want to talk about, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, of course, if you're in the UK, something else. New Statesman or Guardian or Der Spiegel or Japan Times. I don't care. I tend to look at all the different stuff, conservative and liberal, even though I'm more of a classical liberal type, I guess. I really don't know how to describe my worldview, except that I'm pro-life, not in the sense that I don't want women to be pro-choice and be able to decide if they need an abortion, an early term abortion or not. I'm for freedom and individuality and human rights, universal human rights and things like that. But I also like differences, and I love culture, revere culture. So when I see news items about Bali cleaning up its trash and now having to charge a tourist tax of only $10, by the way, which I think they should charge $1,000 to go to Bali. Because I've been going to Bali since the 70s. Yes, I know I'm fortunate, I'm lucky. I'm a boomer, and I grew up with the ability to travel from a young age, so I was lucky. But for me, Bali kind of died in the 90s because of tourism. And Barcelona died in the 2010s because of Airbnbs and tourism and whatever. But that's my problem. I'm nostalgic for the time when I went to Bali and saw it as a pure, unique, and beautiful culture that I could learn from and experience without seeing a whole bunch of surfers or bars or prostitutes or buildings or condos, luxury homes and so on. It's just heartbreaking because I really had an affinity for and an attraction to Bali Hindu. And you know, when I first went to Japan, I felt that way about Japan. You could call me a Japanophile if you want. And I felt that way about China. And I felt that way about Portugal and a lot of places in the world. I used to love Mexico before American demand for drugs created the fertile ground, the preconditions for the war on drugs that Reagan started and never ended after that. Our forever wars make me sick. I'm not a war hawk. I'm not an apologist for the mainstream. And generally I get frustrated by people who are, not because I don't like them or because I don't think they have valuable opinions on various things, but because I just find it frustrating that when you meet a conventional thinker who's an apologist for business as usual, they just dismiss any information that you share with them out of hand. Like, I'm not going to look at that. It's not this, that, or the other thing. I won't look at it. They're not challenging their own ideas, you know, intellectually, and it frustrates me. Now, for a normal person, I'm a friendly guy. I can talk about basketball all day, even if I know little about it, if that's what you're into. I want to make friends and I want to have a good time with people. And I like people in general. I don't like people who call everybody who isn't like them or doesn't think like them an asshole or an idiot. That really frustrates me. If I meet a religious billionaire who prays with some poor guy sitting outside of Kentucky Fried Chicken and his big thing to do for the world is to hand him a bucket of chicken and then pray with him, I say, fine, that's great, whatever. If he wants to brag about the helicopter that he has to get him around his spread in Texas, all right, what are you going to do? I'm reading a book now called The Visionaries, Wolfgram, I forget the name. Anyway, it's about Arendt, Weil, Simone de Beauvoir, and Ayn Rand. So these women were all really coming up and productive in the 30s and afterwards, 40s, 50s. And, you know, what a period of history that was. And there's so many parallels, so many things you can learn from studying that period, especially through these women's perspectives. They're all different. Simone didn't like the other Simone much. They were quite different, but they respected one another a lot. And Ayn Rand couldn't be more different from Arendt, but there's a lot of similarity and respect there. You know, you can be a Randian and say, I've been around the world and I found my I, and be all excited about that. And I'm glad, I'm happy for you if you understand the value of I and you want to, me, myself, and I, and you want to kick ass and take names and run the world, right? Become a billionaire and mess around like Elon, or become inherit money and be a vandal like Donald J. or whatever. That's fine. I don't want to get into these syndromes where I can't interact, interrogate, and enjoy people's differences and different points of view, even though I know damn well I disagree. So to that end, I read a variety of things from a variety of domains that I'm not an expert in, and I don't have to be. It's okay if I don't know much about it. At least I'm, touching base with it. How do you define reality? Well, what are you talking about? Is your daughter real? Is the concept of money and monetary theory and whatnot that we have now real? Is space-time real? How does our concept of these realities change over time? Or can we all agree that H2O as a representation, an abstract representation of water, real, or 2 + 2 = 4? There are depths you can plumb, and most of us just aren't smart enough to go there, but that's okay. We can brush up against it, experience it to a certain degree that might pick our interests or curiosity or make us motivated to learn something new and give us another perspective on the world, so we're not so narrow-minded and hateful and shallow, and so we're more interesting as people. If you're gonna love the future, you have to love life, and part of living is using our brains. So it's very easy to pick low-hanging fruit like religion and pick on it if that's your thing, or advocate it if that's your thing. But there's a lot out there, and I encourage people to look at it. So my next I like the way he thinks video, I just gonna put 2 new categories on my channel. One is I like the way she thinks, and I did a piece about Simone Weil, which wasn't very deep, but I'm not a scholar in Simone Weil. I just read her and find her thoughts and way of expressing herself extremely interesting. And I've always been a fan of Arendt and Simone de Beauvoir, and even Ayn Rand is a fascinating individual, a fascinating intellect, and they all led amazing lives, by the way. So I'm going to probably do something on that book because I like the way all those women think. And another one I like is John Gray, who's a British philosopher. I don't know if he calls himself a philosopher now, writer, thinker, public intellectual, important kind of personality in the world of academia and intellectualism. And he's a great writer. He wrote on Hayek and John Stuart Mill. And I just read his recent book, The New Leviathan, which was fun. I mean, it goes everywhere. It's very eclectic. And he's touching on various thinkers' views and kind of tying it into Hobbesian thinking. But it's really interesting for me. I just love that. I love bouncing around and going on a journey where some writer is making connections that I haven't seen or experienced, finding patterns that are interesting and making allusions to things I might not have associated with something else. I just find it a lot of fun. So I want to do something on John Gray because I like the way he thinks, and I've talked about Sapolsky in the past and other people. I like the way they think. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything they say, or I even understand everything they say. I might not understand half of what they say, but I find it interesting and I like the way they think, the thought processes, right? So I don't have to be a card-carrying fanatic fan. Usually when I'm commenting on YouTube videos or on Medium or Substack articles or something, I'll write like 2 pretty long paragraphs. Maybe that's not good. I should just say, "You're great, I love you, you do great work." Or, "Thank you for interviewing, the ghost of Mickey Rourke," or something like that. Mickey Rourke's still alive. Could have used a better example, but I don't, because if I comment, I'm interested in what the person's saying and I want to express my thoughts and feelings about it. And of course, you're never going to get any likes because people don't read 2 paragraphs You know, if they're lucky, they just finished reading that person's article. So reading, in the old days of subreddits and blogs and so on, and back in the day, I mean, you would write like a 2-page letter to somebody. And on certain venues, communities of people that are focused on rationality or reactionary politics or protopian thinking or climate change or whatever it is, whatever the thing is, music or whatever, art, movies, people do have incredibly engaging and detailed discussions and threads and so on. Of course, I miss face-to-face conversation most of all, because I'd rather have that conversation in person so that we could really plumb the depths of our feelings and ideas about something. It's so much nicer. But sometimes it's also feels good to write a few paragraphs and get a response. And hopefully, if you're open-minded and open-hearted, you can learn something from the response and not just think that you're lecturing people on stuff. That really bothers me. People just spit out, I call it parroting, something they've heard or read without really having it come from deep down inside themselves, their deep understanding of something. So, for example, parroting your lecture in sociology versus having interrogated your teacher's thoughts and ideas for years, engaged with them, and then through that relationship, new ideas and thoughts and opinions kind of emerge from you as you experience them and play with them and interrogate them and so on. Anyway, that's a frustration. Sometimes I get a little bit upset, but that's because I know that some of my friends are just trying to wind me up. They just think it's amusing to get a rise out of me. But I'd rather you got a rise out of me by having a deeper conversation. If you're gonna tell me what you heard on CNN, I'm really not interested, not at all. But if you want to talk to me about the visionaries, I would love that. So, John Gray's coming up. The Visionaries is coming up. I still want to talk with Mick. So that's all I really have to say today. I hope I didn't go on too long. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you want to share it, if you want to like it, if you want to comment, that'd be great. I don't mind reading 3 paragraphs of earnest, thoughtful comment. And if not, oh well. I enjoyed making this video. Have a good day. Have a good coming weekend. Take good care. William T. out.